G'day everyone, I'm Smokescreen and welcome back to another video. Here we go with another FIA race combination. We'll talk about a bit more about the combination shortly, but first we're going to take a look at some of the names in this lobby here. Up on first position, Metal Gear 9493, VLX Fella, LR Amazing Hour, Moto Junior 09. Some of the top players. Surprise, this is actually top split, so... Whoa, pretty much is my my reaction to that. Top split, eh? What do you reckon? So, my FIA, this round of FIA was competing. I was competing with the top drivers. I had a high enough DR, which actually isn't that high at the moment. Disclaimer, I'm only in top split because not many people are playing this combination. But, disclaimer aside, top split. But yeah, my DR was sitting at about 40,000. Out of 100,000, so look, not that great, but yeah. So we're just going to come around for a qualifying lap. The combination you can see, of course, is Circuit des Spa Francorchamps in Group 3 in the wet conditions. So we're on racing heavy wet tyres, but we're going to come through for a qualifying lap now. You see it take a nice straight run out onto the main straight, very tardy on the powers. I didn't want to be too close to this Porsche up ahead, and I'm hoping the slipstream can kind of negate any time that I ended up losing from the late power application. Braking just on the end of the wall as the wall sort of juts to the left on the left hand side before the 100 metre board into Le Source hairpin turn 1. Nice patient exit here, and then we're going to come up towards the most famous corners on the track, Eau Rouge and Radeon. So Eau Rouge is turn 2 and then Radeon is turn 3, which is here. Lift off the throttle and a little bit of a brake. You can go to 4th gear, but I found it was a bit squirrely on the exit, and then we get gently on the power as we go up Eau Rouge. Very prone to oversteer through there as well. And then we're heading down the Camel Straight towards the Chicane, and then we're looking for our braking point. It's a dark bit of road after the 150 metre board there. We brake right on it. It's right in the middle of the racing line, so it's quite easy to spot. We actually run a little bit deep as well as Porsche spins out. Sacrifice turn 5, so we get a nice run through turn 6 and a better angle through Malmedy turn 7 as it leads out onto a bit of a straight before Rivage or Bruchel, as I think it is pronounced. Turn 8, this hairpin here. Braking just before the curb starts on the left hand side. There's like a thin bit of tarmac before the curb, braking about halfway along that thin bit of tarmac, and then coming in towards Jackie X corner. I don't really have a braking point for this corner here, just as long as I'm on the brakes before the black box hanging up on the wall on the right hand side on the entry to turn 9 there. Into Pouon, braking just on the 50 metre board. Make sure we're in 4th gear through here. Actually slide a little bit wide. You see we just touched that slippery AstroTurf on the exit. We managed to get back onto the curb just in time in order to get the power down for turn 11. Then heading into Lafargue chicane, braking just on the gantry just before the 50 metre board into turn 12 here. Make sure we're nice and patient through turn 12 as we want to get the better line through 13 as it leads out onto this little bit of a straight here into Campus, otherwise known as Stavelo 1, braking just before the curb on the left hand side. 3rd gear, nice and slow through here as it's quite narrow on the exit. Porsche loses it on the exit as well as we head through Stavelo 2, Stavelo 2. Nice and gentle through there, just balancing that throttle through there not to spin out. I think that Porsche spinning out was our source of slipstream, so we've probably lost the slipstream for this bit of a straight here, but not to worry as we've got Blanchimont coming up, which you probably would rather have the downforce rather than the dirty air. Just to lift on the entry there, try not to brake as much as possible. Heading into the chicane, braking there's like a white line going across the track before the 50 metre board, before the 100 metre board. Braking just on that into 2nd gear, nice and patient through here. Very easy to spin out as well, and I think we just lose a little bit of time by catching up to the back of Rosmo there, but it's quite a short run to the line. Thank goodness. We come across the line with a 2:36.0. Puts us 5th in top split. What do you reckon about that? I'm quite happy with that performance there, but we haven't actually talked about the car. Honda NSX. MR cars dominate in the wet, and the Honda NSX, being MR, is quite a strong car as well. Good down the straight as well, which is why we've chosen it. But as always with the FIA races, we're going to enjoy the beautiful, theatrical introduction. how good was that? But we line up on the grid now. You see the grid there. There I am in 5th place. Flashing my lights, we've got Metal Gear in 1st position and VLX Fella in 2nd position. LR Amazing Hour in 3rd. We've got Old Mate ahead. We've had quite a good battle with Old Mate previously. I think it was at Monza in the Lamborghini Huracan a few rounds ago. Now, as good as a track that Spa is, the rolling starts here are a gigantic issue, because basically if you start 5th or backwards, even 4th, it was still not great, as we saw there. You're starting right in the middle of one of the tightest chicanes in the game, so you kind of lose out majorly. And you see, onto the main straight already, I'm 2 seconds behind Old Mate. I'm already out of his slipstream and the race just started, so he got away fine. I was the first person of the field to be completely balked by the chicane. And you see that we've now lost our slipstream ahead, and we've got Oz ___3, friend of the channel, 4 tenths behind. Not really, I'm only joking, just because he has so many underscores in his name, I like to make fun of it. But the race, we didn't have slipstream from 4th position, so we kind of, lost any advantage we might have been able to gain. And you see by lap 7, we've only extended the gaps here, but unfortunately here, you see I look behind at the complete wrong point. I end up on the grass, and I thought I had it saved, but the nature of Spa in the wet here means that I had absolutely no grip when trying to correct it. So yeah, looking behind through the kink in the Camel Straight is not the best thing to do, evident by my absolute bin here. The strategy as well, it's a no stop, so these cars here, all rear-wheel drive, they're going to eat through their rear tyres, especially because you wheel spin so much on the exit of corners. Then coming through Eau Rouge, you see the first bit of sliding down the Camel Straight just took a bit of a chunk out of the rear tyres, and now we've sort of fallen into the exponential sort of decrease in speed that is, rear tyre wear. As the tyres wear, you make it easier to lose control, therefore wearing the tyres out more. It's a positive feedback loop. That's the only thing positive about it. It's generally a pretty negative thing. You see a couple more instances where we just completely spin out on the exit of corners. Very embarrassing, falling down into 15th position. You see the rear tyres are like not half, probably 35 to 40% worn, especially on that back left. This being a clockwise circuit, you're going to eat through your left tyres more. You see we get past down the straight into Lecombe chicane by Shanock V8R here, and by the end of lap 9, you see we set at 2:53.6. We're also now 4.2 seconds behind that Porsche that passed us, but yeah, 2:53, that's how far off the pace we are, nearly 20 seconds off the pace, off our fastest lap in the race. So that is just how much these tyres have gone off by the end. And coming through Blanchimont for the final time of 11, we are so far behind that we actually don't even get to finish. We have recorded a lovely DNF there, that far behind that the timer ran out. Of course, the timer starts once the leader goes across the line, so the race finishes, within a reasonable time, and we didn't quite get to the end. Only picking up 91 points and finishing in 16th. Very, very embarrassing and disappointing, especially because we started 5th. So my first race in top split, not going that well. And I mean, I knew this was going to be a difficult combination, and I've never really driven the wet conditions without traction control, which I did have turned off in that race. But we're going to try and see if we can try and, recover for a second race here. And we're going to study the replay as well. So first thing we're going to check is tyres on lap 4. So you see my tyres there, a little bit, you can just see some red on the rear tyres. Just go to VLX Fella, as he ended up winning the race, so he's obviously got the superior strategy or superior driving style in that particular race. Of course, Metal Gear, I think it's Dan Holland, I think is his name. He's a FIA finalist, World Tour finalist. Yeah, very quick players, of course, being top split. We're going to fast forward ahead to lap 8. We're going to pause it there and see the rear tyres of Old Mate here. You see they're about 20% worn. Mine have slightly more. It's not much, but in the grand scheme of sort of grip levels as tyres go off, even a slight bit of extra tyre wear can lead to so much less grip, noticeably less grip. It's just how the physics in this game work, especially in the wet, where essentially all the wet, the coding for wet weather just makes the tyres more slippery, and they just call it wet conditions. Bit of a strange way to do it, but yeah. But we're going to see how VLX Fella drives. See how he brakes so much later than I do with no engine braking. So, we're going to keep an eye. We're going to go through and watch a whole lap of VLX fellas to see if we can try and increase our pace. So he's braking just before the 100 meter board, quite close to it, closer than I was. I was braking like the end of the wall on the left hand side, you know, twice as far before the 100 meter board than VLX fella is. And we're going to see how he tackles Eau Rouge and Radeon. You see on the entry, let's see what he does. He lifts off, hardly any brake whatsoever, and just uses the downforce on the car to get it through Eau Rouge and up Radeon. So let's have another look through here, through Eau Rouge. Yeah, just a slight lift, slight dab of brakes to scrub off a few k's an hour, and he keeps quite a high average speed. I think his lowest speed was about 198 or something. My lowest speed was like 180 or something. So yeah, I think my problem is I'm over driving, and obviously if you have a look here, engine braking is not what you want to do. In the dry, you really want to engine brake to get, you know, maximum braking capacity. You don't want to downshift so much that the tyres begin to under-rotate, but you just want to, you know, downshift so the rev bar fills up all the way without hitting the limiter in order to, you know, get that engine to contribute to braking as well. Third gear through the hairpin as well, then coming through here, very light braking. So I think that's where I was going wrong. I think I'm trying to drive the car like it's dry. It's just, you know, like in the dry conditions, you've got to drive the car very differently in the wet. Coming through Pouon, I had the right idea here, dropping down into fourth and then nice and gently on the power on the exit. I think by the end of the race I was going up into fifth gear early in order to reduce wheel spin, but it seems that you do want fourth gear on the exit. You just control that oversteer with your throttle rather than with the gear choice. So we're learning a couple of things from here as well, and he's nice and smooth. You see, he's also not turning the wheel all the way to left and right lock. He's sort of turning it, you know, very gently, just enough. See, not all the way to the end of the rev bar, the little red dot which indicates steering input. See, it's not all the way locked. It's, you know, about 3/4 of the way to 4/5 of the way along the side of the bar where they're turning. And then heading up here, we're going to see how they tackle Blanchimont, or how VLX fella tackles Blanchimont technically. He's probably going to take a similar strategy to Eau Rouge as well. Yeah, just lifting off, slight dab of brake, almost no brake. There would be no brake with no tyre wear. Of course, we're, you know, quite a good chunk into the race, so there's going to be some tyre wear effects in there. But yeah, look at that, no engine braking, just shifting down to first gear right as you enter the corner, right as you touch the apex in order to get the rotation, but you're not engine braking here. So I think the downside is that engine braking causes those tyres to under-rotate much more easier in the wet, so it decreases efficiency and extends your braking zone. But now that we've learnt that, let's just take a quick look at my excursion off the track from the perspective of Frithy behind. Yeah, I just completely lose it. How embarrassing, and I was seeing some very familiar faces at that particular point there, but we'll move on. We'll have another go with our new driving style. I lost the footage of my qualifying lap for this, but it was slightly slower than the one I showed you at the start, so no worries there. And so it puts us 9th here. And then in second position we have Mint Matt. That of course is Matt Simmons, and also a FIA World Tour, Gran Turismo World Tour finalist. You know, once again in top split we've got Metal Gear on pole position again as well. Obviously, he got the first place taken off him in the previous race by VLX fella, so he's obviously come back to try and get the victory. But we do of course have a few extra players playing on this time slot of the afternoon. It was here in Australia when this round was occurring, but of course starting in 9th, we're going to start before the chicane at the end of the lap. Remember, my last race I started on the apex of the second part of the chicane, so I didn't quite lose as much time from the leaders as I do here. But you see on the exit of the corner, of course, a few cars ahead of me also had some problems as well, and I had traction control on for the start. As I don't want to lose control with cold tyres, we're going to practice the no engine braking here, and you see we brake quite a bit later. We do run deep, so you know we're going to have to adjust that, but I can brake later now that I'm not engine braking. We're going to try and carry those skills throughout this race here and see if we can get sort of a better result than last time. Of course the tyres just dropped right off about halfway through the previous race. I was eating through my tyres way too quickly. So we're going to try and copy what VLX fella was doing in order to decrease those effects of tyre wear. It wasn't until lap 3 where I kind of made a bit of my first significant mistake of the lap, just getting onto the power a little bit too early as we exit turn 8. here, and we just lose that position to Captain Muffin, who has a lovely Australian Police Department livery on his Honda NSX. So hopefully we can catch up, but we're going to just run a little bit deep onto the entry of the Fug Chicane on lap 4, so this is a lap later, and we've lost that position to Captain Muffin, and we've now got some pressure from behind from Moto Junior 09 behind here. We're going to park it on the apex of turn 14 here, and then try and get the power down through 15 as we head up the straight towards Blanchimont here. A little bit wider, we're just on that AstroTurf. You get one wheel on the AstroTurf, and in the wet it just really drags your car off, and it's so hard to get off it because the left-hand side of that track continues curving to the right. We're on the inside here. We're just going to back right out. I'm not running side-by-side through Blanchimont. I don't even like doing it in the dry, so I'm not even going to attempt it in the wet. But you see we've got the run heading up towards the chicane, but I thought better of that because I know if I'm in Moto's position here, nothing is more irritating than someone immediately overtaking you again, because you end up just losing time together as a pair, and I don't want to do that. I think it's just going to be quicker to stick in his slipstream there. He did brake slightly early for the chicane, so we looked up the inside. I had nowhere else to go, but he managed to feather that brake, and I just slot in behind. But we're going to skip ahead to Pouon of lap 8, and we're going to start to see some battling here. So I've lost 2 positions over the course of the race, but you can see my pace there on the right hand side is much better. I'm still in the 38 instead of a 240 on lap 3. Obviously that was the lap where I made the mistake on the exit of Rivage. So that was the only lap where I've dipped into the 40s. Otherwise all my laps are in the 2:30 realm, which is fine. You know, it's a bit slow, but it's not too bad considering my level here. So Captain Muffin made a mistake through the Fug Chicane. He swapped positions with Red Mist up in 9th position, so I've now got the police department in front of me, which is very interesting. Usually they're behind you. Am I right? But we're going to go through Blanchimont now, a little bit wide onto the AstroTurf on the exit. Coming into the chicane, Captain Muffin's quite slow. We're going to close up under braking, nowhere near close enough to go for a bit of a dive down the inside. Of course you can if you like, as long as you don't make contact, as long as you hit the apex of the corner. Of course, if you go for a dive and meet the apex, it's fine. If you go for a dive and there's massive contact and cause a huge accident, yeah, that's probably not so fine. Coming into the source hairpin, braking on the 100 metre board, it's slightly a little bit too late. It's quite a bit too late, and the inside's open on the exit. I've got a car on my right quarter panel, right rear quarter panel there. I've got a pink Honda NSX behind me, just pulls in behind Iron Mask does. Heading up towards Eau Rouge, as we know, we're not running side by side through here any day of the week, no matter what conditions we're in, whether we're in infinite grip or no grip, we're not running side by side through that portion of the track there. We're going to stick into Captain Muffin's slipstream, see all that spray. It's so hard to see the brake lights of the car ahead, so you do have to be careful as we head in towards the comp chicane, braking just after the 150 metre board. Of course, the spray makes it really hard to see my braking point, which is a dark patch of tarmac on the ground in the racing line. It makes that hard to see, so we're going to have to judge using the 150 metre board, as I know my braking points after the 150 metre board. It gets a bit of oversteer on the exit of Malbody there, and we managed to go around the outside. We're going to look around the outside of turn 8. It's not a good place here, and really going to see who has the superior grip on the exit there. I'll try to get onto the power without oversteer. I've still got my nose stuck up on the inside, but Captain Muffin just sweeps in around the outside as we head through Jackie X corner, heading in towards Pouon now. Let's see, is he gonna brake late? I had a feeling he might have. You see he turns in and gets a little bit of snap oversteer. He's sliding on the outside, and I just come through and make contact with the front of his car, pushing it back in line. If anything, I helped him, but then, just look behind there. Audi R8 completely spears to the outside, so yeah, bit of a poor run from that Audi. Captain Muffin, he's disappeared off the top 12 leaderboard as well, so yeah, I'm not quite sure what happened behind me, but if anything, I helped Captain Muffin by pushing him back into line from oversteer, but not to worry, we'll move on up into 10th position once again. You see Red Mist ran a little bit deep into turn 14 on this lap here. We've managed to get into the slipstream 1 second behind. Of course, slipstream starts from about 1.5 seconds back, So 1 second is, you know, a good portion into the slipstream. We are here. Heading through Blanchimont now, a little bit of a wiggle on the exit. We managed to catch it, no worries. Heading in towards the chicane, braking just on the white line before the 100 metre board into the chicane here. First gear I select this time, trying to be very careful, especially on the exit of that first part of the chicane, turn 18, as the track sort of undulates. It's very easy to spear off to the right. Of course, the next part of the chicane goes left, so it is the non-favourable side. Braking a little bit later than usual now that I'm not choosing engine braking, and you can see that by lap 10 here, I'm still in the 2-minute 30s for my lap times. So obviously, just studying VLX Fella, I'm just able to keep the car under control and just control that tyre wear a little bit more. I've got traction control turned off, brake balance set, I think it was to -4, which is 4 notches to the front of the car, as we don't want to be using those rear tyres to slow the car down. Red Mist gets a massive slide moment coming through, up through Radeon there, and he runs very wide. Is it going to lead to a penalty from him? We're going to see shortly it does. Half a second penalty for exceeding track limits on the exit of Radeon up through turn 4 there, out onto the Campbell Straight. So he's going to serve that the next lap, heading through Campbell Straight here. But nevertheless, we're going to see if we're going to be able to get that position without him serving the penalty. You see oversteer from Red Mist, a transition from the left to the right, sliding on the exit of Malbody once again. Let's see if I can repeat the move I tried on Captain Muff. I'm going to try and go around the outside of brake later than I did previously. I'm on the left-hand side of the track. He's sliding on the apex. Look down on that radar there. He had that car sideways, but he's able to get onto the power a little bit earlier thanks to being on the inside, and once again just sweeps ahead through Jackie X corner. So copying Captain Muffin's tactics here, but he's very slow off the exit, getting a little bit of oversteer on the exit. You see he just brakes way early, just pulls right out of that. He knew that he was serving a penalty. There's no point holding me up here. Massive bit of oversteer as we head through Pouon turn 11, and you see how close we've got Iron Mask behind, and we are of course got only about 1.5 laps to go as well, so we're going to try and keep Iron Mask behind me here. I do have the tyre. I am able to rely on the tyres a little bit more than previously, as I've really felt like I was just nursing the car home in the previous race, as it had just no grip whatsoever. But this time around, VLX Fella, thank you very much for showing me your ways, even if you didn't know that I was looking at them, but it's fine. And we're going to head up towards the straight, towards Blanchimont, up Paul Frere Straight, I think it is known as, this portion of the track here. And then we're going to turn into turn 16, easily flat out, even in the wet, and then turn 17, Blanchimont. You see we're closing, have a look on the radar, he was closing in behind just as we began to enter Blanchimont, but I've got the superior exit, so hopefully we're not going to be, you know, succumb to a late braking manoeuvre by Iron Mask into the chicane here. As long as we meet that apex beautifully, which we do, control that throttle on the exit there. We've only got one more time, one more tour of Circuit de Spa Francorchamps to try and keep our 9th position. So of course we actually haven't gained in this race at all. We lost 2 and now we've gained 2, but hopefully we can at least just bring home 9th, as I will take a 9th position, especially in top split. Of course, finishing, just being in top split is, you know, technically it's better than winning 2nd split because you're a higher up, you know. But we'll see if we can keep the position from Iron Mask. So tyres are quite worn at this point, but hopefully we control up through Eau Rouge. Quite a lot of braking there. I'm just getting on the throttle here. I just get a little bit of oversteer, and I don't want to exceed track limits, so I just come right out of it. Iron Mask makes his way through, but it's not to worry. Just going to get into his slipstream down Campbell Straight here. You see he's weaving left to right, right to left, try and break that slipstream toe, and it has worked. I'm definitely not going to get that move coming into the Lecombe chicane, so we'll see if we can gently get onto the power as we exit turn 7, and just as we get onto the power, car begins to snap to the right, and we're just offline as we head through our turn 6, and then into turn 7, we drop out of slipstream range. So you see how quickly we lose positions here. By the end of the lap, we only got to 2 seconds behind, so you know, maybe if it was one, obviously, if it was one less lap, I would have beat him, but if I was slightly better and slightly more patient on the exit of those slow corners, I probably could have preserved my tyres enough in order to keep that position from Iron Mask. But top 10 in top split, I'll take it. So not too bad. We'll see how many points I get in just a second. But yeah, round 17, 10th position. Thank you, Honda. We get 174 points, so about the same number of points, maybe 1 position less. You know, the equivalent of 1 position less in my Zonda race. You know, the race I did in Nürburgring GP in the Pagani Zondas, the equivalent of one less position there, 174 points for Australia. So another good combination. I think that was a big learning curve for me as well, as, you know, I'm not too experienced with the wet conditions. I have had a few races in the wet, but generally around Tokyo Expressway in daily races where the level of driving, especially considering that we were just in top split as well, you know, level of driving is not quite there in those daily races. So finishing 10th, managing to keep that car under control. There were a couple of little leery moments there, but I was able, for the most part, to keep that Honda under control, and it was the first time I'd driven that car as well, so I think I did quite well. But all in all, good combination. I did like that, and I did learn a bit about driving in the wet. That's going to wrap up this one today, so I do hope you enjoyed. Do hit that like button if you did, and do subscribe if you would like to see more videos like this. But that's going to be the end of this one today, and that means that is it from me. So once again, I do thank you very much for watching. See you later.